The spotlight caught the slick first, wrong color, wrong texture. Not oil. I've pushed barges up and down this stretch of the Mississippi for 19 years, seen every kind of spill the chemical plants can burp up, and this wasn't any of them. Green like antifreeze mixed with something that made it glow under the towboat's floods. Made my skin crawl just looking at it. "Captain Mercer, you seeing this?" Danny's voice crackled through the radio from the pilot house above me. Kid was good. Too good to be stuck as a deckhand. But that's what happens when your cousin gets you the job and you're still learning to navigate by the channel markers instead of your phone. I'm seeing it. I was standing on the bow deck of the River Queen, for loaded barges lashed ahead of us carrying fertilizer down to Baton Rouge. The slick stretched maybe 200 feet across, hugging the east bank where the Hartwell chemical plant squatted like a rusty spider. Used to make pesticides there before they switched to something classified, government contracts, hazmat signs on every truck. Emily, my ex, used to work their QA lab before the divorce. Said they had protocols stacked on protocols. Said nothing could ever get out. That was before tonight. "Radio's going crazy," Danny said. "Coast Guard just issued a closure from mile marker 384 to 391. Captain, that's us." "I can count, Danny." My hand went to the rail, DeWalt work gloves. Bought a new pair every month at the Tractor Supply in Vicksburg because the old ones wore through at the seams. The metal under my palm vibrated with the twin diesels churning below. Felt solid. Felt normal. The river didn't feel normal anymore. My phone buzzed. Emily. Of course it was Emily. We hadn't talked in 8 months. Not since the custody hearing where her lawyer made me sound like I was married to this boat instead of her. Maybe I was. Maybe that's why I answered. "Clint, don't go near Hartwell. I'm serious." Her voice had that tight quality she got when she was trying not to cry. Emily didn't cry easy. She'd worked around industrial chemicals too long to get emotional about spills. The containment tank collapsed. F7 protocol. That means. What's F7? It means everyone who was in the plant when it happened is dead or dying, Clint. It means the Army Corps is going to blow the upstream levee to flush the river, and if you're still in the channel when they do. The line cut to static. I stared at the phone. 3 bars. Should have been fine. I looked back at the slick. It had grown. No, not grown. Spread. Patches of that wrong green glow now dotted the surface all the way to the west bank, like someone had spilled radioactive jello across a mile of river. Something moved in the water. Not a fish. Fish don't move like that, all jerky, wrong angles. I'd seen plenty of catfish and drum in my years, big ones too, 100-pounders that'd make the deck crew whoop. This was about that size, but it moved like it was fighting itself, like half its muscles wanted to swim upstream and half wanted to spiral down into the mud. Then I saw its skin, covered in the same green shit. Not covered, growing from. Patches of it spreading across the scales like mold on bread. "Danny, pull us to the west bank. Now." But the Coast Guard said. I don't give a fuck what they said. West bank. That's an order. The towboat shuddered as Danny pushed the rudder hard over. The River Queen was old, built in '89, same year I graduated high school, and she didn't turn pretty. The barges ahead of us swung wide, cables groaning. I should have been in the pilot house directing the turn, but I couldn't stop watching the water. More shapes now. Dozens of them. All moving wrong. All glowing that sick green. And between them, something that might have been a person once, floating face down, arms spread like wings. The back of their shirt said Hartwell in faded orange letters. My radio crackled. All vessels, this is Coast Guard Station Memphis. Emergency navigation closure now in effect from mile marker 380 to 395. Category 5 hazmat event. Evacuate the channel immediately. Levee demolition scheduled for 0400 hours to flush contaminants. Repeat, levee demo at 0400. I checked my watch. Casio that had survived 3 floods and 2 engine room fires. 2:47 a.m. We had an hour and 13 minutes before they turned this whole stretch of river into an artificial rapid. Captain, Danny's voice was smaller now. Where do we go? Good question, kid. The west bank was still 500 yards away, and between us and safety was a mile of water that was turning into something that killed you if you touched it. Could feel the engines straining. We were pushing 6,000 tons of fertilizer and steel, and the current was running fast. Spring melt from up north, all that snowpack coming down through Iowa and Wisconsin, turning the Mississippi into a muscle that didn't give a damn about tugboat captains with Casio watches and child support payments. That's when I saw the refinery. Downriver, maybe 2 miles, the Marathon complex lit up the night like a small city. Distillation towers and cracking units and storage tanks stacked on 20 acres of riverfront. I'd passed it 10,000 times. Knew every light, every loading dock. Knew the night crew too. Sometimes we'd radio jokes back and forth when the river was slow and boring. Tonight I counted 6 lights where there should have been 50. And one of them was moving. Flashlight. Someone on the dock, waving it back and forth. SOS pattern. Slow, fast, slow. Danny, what's the depth under us? 42 feet, Captain. Plenty of clearance. We drew 9 feet loaded, 12 if we were pushing hard against current. But those slicks were spreading, and I didn't know if that green shit floated or sank or did something else entirely. Didn't know what F7 protocol meant, except everyone at Hartwell was dead. My phone buzzed again. Text from Emily, refinery workers trapped. Plant manager called me. Please. Of course he did. Emily still kept her industry contacts. She'd moved to safety consulting after Hartwell, made decent money telling companies how not to fuck up. Probably made more than me now. Definitely had more sense than to be on a towboat at 3 in the morning, watching the river turn into a death trap. But I was already making the calculation. 2 miles to the refinery. Current with us for knots. Figure 8 minutes if we pushed hard. Get the people off the dock. How many? Maybe a dozen, maybe more, and run like hell for the West Bank before the levee blew. Or we could save ourselves. Turn hard, beach the barges, get onto solid ground with an hour to spare. Watch whoever was waving that flashlight drown in 10 million gallons of poison water, moving at the speed of a freight train. Danny, what are you doing tonight after our shift? I asked. Silence. Then, what? You got plans? Girlfriend, maybe? I know you've been talking about that girl from the pilot station in Helena. Captain, what the hell? Just answer the question. Yeah, I got plans. Supposed to take her to dinner at that catfish place she likes. Why? Because I needed to know if I was about to kill someone with a future. Because I was tired of making decisions that hurt people, and I wanted someone else to tell me what to do. Because Emily's voice was still in my head saying please, and I was never any good at telling her no. Change of plans, I said. We're going to the Marathon dock. I could hear him trying to process that. Kid was 23, still thought the world had rules that made sense. Captain, the Coast Guard said. I know what they said. You see that light downriver? Yeah, but there's people alive there. They're trapped. We're the only boat in range that can get them out before the levee blows. Another long silence. I watched the slick spreading. They'd reached the center channel now, merging into larger patches. Looked like a bruise on the face of the river. Something splashed near the port bow. Another fish, or what used to be a fish, flopping in the wrong green water. My mom's gonna kill me, Danny finally said. Your mom already thinks you're crazy for working towboats. Yeah, but she's gonna be extra right about it if we die. I almost laughed. Almost. Full ahead, Danny. Let's not keep those people waiting. The River Queen surged forward. The radio lit up like Christmas. Towboat River Queen, this is Coast Guard Memphis. You are ordered to vacate the Hazmat zone immediately. I keyed the mic, Coast Guard, this is Captain Mercer on the Queen. We've got eyes on survivors at the Marathon refinery dock. Requesting permission to extract personnel before levee demolition. Static then. Negative, River Queen. Hazmat protocols prohibit approach. Local emergency response is handling extraction. I looked downriver. Marathon's main dock was dark except for those 6 lights and the one flashlight still waving. No fireboats, no helicopters, no emergency response that I could see, just a couple of pickup trucks on the access road and a whole lot of nothing else. Coast Guard, I don't see any emergency response. What's the ETA on rescue? River Queen, that information is classified. You are ordered. I turned the radio off. Couldn't listen to that bullshit. Not when I could still see the flashlight waving. Someone down there knew we were coming. Someone was counting on us. Emily would have called that my hero complex. Said I kept trying to save people because I couldn't save our marriage. Maybe she was right. Maybe I just didn't like watching people drown. Danny, how's our fuel? 3/4 tank. Captain, if we're doing this, if we're really doing this, we need to talk about the barges. He was right. For loaded barges, 6,000 tons, and we were about to navigate through contaminated water to a dock that probably wasn't designed for our approach angle. In perfect conditions, I'd want 2 hours and a surveyor to plan the approach. We had maybe 6 minutes before we reached Marathon, and the conditions were about as far from perfect as you could get without actually sinking. "We need to cut them loose," Danny said. "Those barges are carrying $10 million of fertilizer. And we're carrying our asses, Captain. Which do you value more?" Kid had a point. I looked at the tow ahead of us, 4 barges lashed in a 2x2 configuration, cables thick as your wrist holding them together. Standard setup. I'd pushed this same configuration 50 times, never had a problem. Never tried to do it through poisoned water with a levee demolition countdown, either. "Keep them attached," I said. "We'll need the mast to push through whatever's in the water. Or they'll drag us down if the cables fail. Then don't let the cables fail." I left the deck house and climbed down to the tow deck. The Mississippi spread out ahead like black glass dotted with wrong green stars. Beautiful and terrible at the same time, kind of like Emily's face the last time I saw her, right after the judge awarded her primary custody of Marcus. Our son was 7, liked dinosaurs and Minecraft and his dad's stories about river life. Didn't like it when I missed his birthday for a run to New Orleans. Couldn't miss this though. Couldn't let those people die because I was scared of green water. The slicks were closer now. Close enough I could smell them, sharp, chemical, wrong. Like ammonia mixed with rotten eggs mixed with something else I didn't have a name for. Made my eyes water. Made my throat close up. I pulled my bandana over my nose. Not much protection, but better than nothing. My phone buzzed. Not Emily this time. "Marcus. Video call." I almost didn't answer. Kid should have been asleep. It was past 3 in the morning, and Emily was strict about bedtime. But I hit the button anyway because I was weak and because I might not get another chance to see his face. "Dad? Mom says you're being stupid." "Your mom's probably right." I kept walking toward the barges. Phone held up so he could see the river behind me. "You should be asleep, buddy." "Can't sleep. Mom's crying. She keeps watching the news and crying." His face was all serious, too serious for 7. "They're saying the river's poisoned. They're saying people died." Yeah, some people died." I reached the first cable junction, checked the tension. Tight. Good. But some people are still alive, and I'm gonna go get them. "Is it scary?" Goddamn right it was scary. My hands were shaking. My heart was doing double time. Every instinct I had said turn around, run, get to safety. But I looked at my son's face on that little screen, and I thought about the flashlight still waving at Marathon, and I said, "Not too scary. I've been doing this a long time. Longer than I've been alive. Way longer." I moved to the second cable, tested it. Still good. "Listen, Marcus, I need to go. Need both hands for this part. But I want you to know." "What?" "That I loved him." He knew that. That I was sorry for missing his birthday. He knew that too. That I was terrified I'd never see him again. Didn't need to lay that on a 7-year-old. "You should go to bed. Your mom needs sleep too. This'll all be over soon. Promise?" "Promise." I ended the call before he could see my face. Before he could see that I was lying. The Marathon dock was a mile away now. I could make out shapes moving on the platform. People, definitely people, clustered near the light. Counted maybe 15 of them. Too many for the Queen's crew quarters, but we'd make it work. Stack them in the galley if we had to. Danny's voice crackled over the PA. "Captain, we got a problem." "Of course we did." "What kind of problem?" "The kind where there's a fucking dead guy floating between us and the dock." I looked. He was right. Body in the water, maybe 200 yards ahead, drifting toward us. Hartwell uniform again, or what was left of it. The green stuff covered most of the torso now, growing in thick patches like lichen on a tree. Arms were spread wide, fingers flexed in claws. Face turned toward us. Still moving. Not the current moving it. It was moving on its own, swimming toward the towboat with jerky, wrong strokes. "That's not a dead guy," I said. "Then what the hell is it?" "Good question." I grabbed the spotlight mount, swung it toward the body. The beam caught him full in the face, or where his face should have been. The green stuff had grown over his eyes, his mouth, everything. Just a mask of that wrong color algae pulsing with its own light. He was maybe 50 yards away now. Close enough I could hear him, not words, just sounds. Wet, clicking sounds like something trying to breathe through water. Danny increased speed. "Get us past him." "If we hit him." "We're not gonna hit him. Just get us past." The engine surged. The River Queen pushed forward, barges cutting through the water like we owned this river. We did own it, usually. 19 years of runs up and down this stretch, and I knew every sandbar, every eddy, every place where the current tried to push you into the bank. The Mississippi was dangerous, but it was predictable. This was something else. The body, the thing that used to be a person, reached toward us as we passed. Its hand broke the surface, fingers stretching. Green algae dripped from the fingernails like melting wax. Then we were past, wake rolling over it, pushing it away. Contact Marathon Doc, I told Danny. Let them know we're inbound. 2 minutes. What if they don't want to evacuate? Then we'll convince them. The radio crackled before Danny could respond. Not Coast Guard this time, different voice, rougher, older. Towboat approaching Marathon. This is Doc Supervisor Hayes. You got a death wish, or you just stupid? I keyed the mic, little of both, Hayes. How many people you got? 17. 12 staff, 5 contractors. Plant managers dead. Touched the water when we were trying to seal the intake valves. Rest of us are clean, but we're trapped. Every vehicle we had is either contaminated or blocked by the wreckage from Hartwell. You're not seriously planning to. I'm planning exactly what you think I'm planning. You got lines ready? Silence. Then, yeah, we got lines. You crazy son of a bitch. I looked at the dock coming up fast. Standard T configuration, designed for tanker barges, not towboats, but we'd make it work. The access platform jutted 30 feet into the river, bollards every 10 feet, concrete pilings underneath. Good and solid. The people clustered on it looked small from here, just shapes huddled together, but I could feel them watching us come in. Watching their only chance. Hold tight, I muttered. Not sure if I was talking to them or me. Danny brought us in perfect. Kid had skills, I'd give him that. Cut the engines at just the right moment. Let momentum carry us the last 50 feet. The bow of the lead barge kissed the dock with a gentle thump that would have made any pilot proud. Then the cable started screaming. The sound was wrong, metal under stress, but not the normal groaning you get when a tow shifts in current. This was higher pitched, more urgent. Like the cables knew something we didn't. Barge 2's dragging. Danny's voice cut through the PA. Captain, we're pulling east. I felt it through my boots, the deck tilting, everything sliding toward the starboard side. Not much, maybe 2 degrees, but on a towboat that's the difference between controlled and catastrophe. I ran to the rail and looked down. The water between the barges and the pilings was glowing. Not from lights, from the algae. It had grown into a thick mat, spreading across the surface like green ice, and it was climbing. Climbing the concrete pilings, the dock supports, creeping up toward the platform where 17 people were getting ready to jump to our deck. Hayes, I keyed my radio. Your people need to move now. Right now. Forget the gear, forget everything. Get on this boat. We're coming. He was shouting over screaming, his crew panicking as they saw what I was seeing. The algae wasn't just spreading, it was accelerating. Growing faster the more surface it had, feeding on something in the water or the air, or maybe just feeding on itself. The first person hit our deck, woman late 30s, marathon coveralls soaked with sweat. She stumbled, caught herself on the rail, looked back at the dock. Oh Jesus! Jesus Christ! The algae had reached the platform, spreading across the concrete like time-lapse footage of mold, that wrong green glow pulsing as it moved. Fast. Too fast. And where it touched the dock, the concrete cracked. Not eroded, cracked, like the algae was breaking down the molecular bonds, turning solid stone into something brittle. Come on! I grabbed the next person climbing across. Young guy, couldn't have been more than 20, contractor badge swinging from his neck. Don't look, just move. They kept coming, kept jumping the 3-foot gap between dock and barge deck. Hayes was directing traffic, getting the slower ones across first, the older folks and the maintenance supervisor with the bad knee. Good man, staying calm when everything said to panic. Then someone screamed. I turned and saw him, dock worker, gray hair, probably close to retirement. He'd grabbed the rail to pull himself across and his hand slipped. Just a simple slip, the kind of mistake that happens 1,000 times a day on industrial sites. Usually it means a scraped palm, maybe a bruised ego. Not today. He fell wrong, hit the gap between barge and dock, and his arm plunged into the water up to the elbow. The algae lit up like someone had plugged him into a battery, surged toward his arm, covering it in seconds, that wrong green glow spreading from wrist to elbow to shoulder. He was screaming. Not words, just sound, primal and horrible. The other workers grabbed him, tried to haul him up, but the algae had him, holding him down like hands made of light. Knife! Hayes was yelling. Someone get me a fucking knife. I already had mine out, buck 119, Same one my dad carried, same one I'd used for 20 years of line work. I jumped down to the gap, grabbed the guy's free arm, and started sawing at his coveralls just above where the algae had reached. Not trying to cut him, trying to cut him free, peel away the contaminated fabric before the stuff could spread further. The algae moved faster. It reached his chest as I cut, reached his neck. He wasn't screaming anymore. Couldn't scream with that stuff growing over his mouth, his nose, his eyes. I could see his chest heaving, see him trying to breathe through the layers of wrong green growth. "Captain, we gotta go." Danny's voice from above. "Cables won't hold much longer." I looked up, looked at Hayes, looked at the 15 people now on my deck and the 2 still on the dock. Looked at the man I was holding whose chest had stopped moving. Looked at my knife buried in his coveralls, useless. "Let him go," Hayes said quietly. "He's still. He's gone. Let him go." I let go. The body slipped back into the water, into the algae mat, and disappeared under that wrong green glow. Took my knife with it. Dad's knife. 20 years of river work. Gone in 3 seconds. Hayes and the last worker jumped across, older woman, supervisor badge, moving like someone who'd jumped from boats before. They landed solid. I counted heads. 16. 17 if you counted the guy in the water, but I wasn't counting him anymore. "Danny, get us out of here." The engines roared. The cables snapped tight. For one terrible moment I thought we'd broken free too late, that the algae had gotten into our ballast tanks or around our props, that we'd end up like that fish I'd seen hours ago, jerking and twisting in poison water. Then we were moving, pulling away from the dock, from the spreading algae, from Marathon and its darkened towers and its ghosts. The wake churned white and clean behind us, at least for now. Hayes stood next to me at the rail. "Thanks," he said, "for coming back. Don't thank me yet." I checked my watch. 3:47, 13 minutes until the levee blew. "We're not out of this." He looked at the water between us and the west bank. 300 yards of open river, maybe more. Should have been an easy run. But the algae had spread so far now that it looked like the whole channel was glowing. Patches of wrong green light floating everywhere, merging, growing, spreading toward each other like they had some kind of plan. Like they were hurting us. "How fast can this boat go?" Hayes asked. "Loaded? Maybe 8 knots. 10 if we push her." "And how fast is the water gonna move when they blow that levee?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. We both knew the math. 10 million gallons of water released at once, a 12-foot wall of current hitting us broadside, sweeping everything downstream. The River Queen could handle that kind of flow. I'd been through high water before, rode out the '93 flood when the whole valley turned into a lake. But not with 6,000 tons of fertilizer behind me and 17 extra people on deck and algae mats cutting off our escape routes. "We should have left an hour ago," I said. "Yeah, but you didn't." "No, I didn't. Because I'd seen that flashlight waving and heard Emily's voice saying please and thought about Marcus asking if I was scared. Because I'd spent 19 years on this river proving I was good at my job, and maybe it was time to prove I was good at something else too. My phone buzzed. Emily again. I answered. "Clint, where are you?" Her voice was raw. She'd been crying. "The news is saying, they're saying the Coast Guard issued a kill zone order. They're saying anyone's still in the channel when the levee blows." "I know what they're saying. Then why the fuck are you still there?" "Because I was stubborn. Because I was stupid. Because I'd made the decision, and now 17 people were counting on me to make it work. Because I'd already watched 1 man die tonight, and I'd be damned if I'd watch 16 more. Got survivors, Em. Marathon dock crew. Couldn't leave them. Silence. Then, goddammit, Clint. Always the hero. Not a hero. Just stupid. I know." Her voice softened. "Marcus is watching the news with me. He keeps asking if you're okay. What do I tell him?" I looked at the water ahead, at the algae spreading, at the cables straining, at my crew and the people I'd just saved all watching me, waiting for me to figure out how to keep them alive. "Tell him his dad's coming home," I said. "Might be late for dinner, but I'm coming home." I ended the call before she could argue, before I could change my mind, before the deck tilted again and Danny's voice came screaming through the PA. "Captain, Barge 3's hull is breaching." The algae had found a weakness. I ran forward, Hayes right behind me. Could already hear it, water rushing into a space where water shouldn't be. High-pitched hissing, like a steam leak but worse. The barge was listing, pulling the whole tow sideways, dragging us off course. "How bad?" I yelled at Danny through the radio. "Bad. Starboard side, below the waterline, looks like the algae ate through the hull plating. We're taking on water fast. Impossible. Steel plate was 3/8 of an inch thick, built to survive collisions and groundings and 20 years of river abuse. That algae shouldn't have been able to, but it had. I reached the barge and saw it myself, a hole the size of a basketball where solid steel used to be, edges corroded away like someone had splashed acid on it. Water pouring in, and with the water came that wrong green glow. The algae was inside now. Inside our tow, growing across the interior bulkheads, spreading toward the fertilizer cargo. We need to cut it loose, Hayes said. Can't. It's the middle barge. If we cut it free, we lose structural integrity on the whole tow. The other barges will scatter, and we'll never get them back. So we keep a leaking barge that's pulling us under? I didn't have a good answer for that. Didn't have any answer except the one my body was already giving, running toward the tool locker, grabbing the heavy cutting torch, the one we used for emergency cable work. Marine-grade acetylene torch, hot enough to cut through steel cable in seconds. Hot enough to burn algae? Maybe. Only one way to find out. Captain, what are you doing? One of the marathon workers, the young guy with the contractor badge, was following me. You can't go in there. That stuff will kill you. Yeah, well, it's already killing us. I hoisted the torch, checked the gauges. Half full. Enough. Had to be enough. Danny, hold us steady. I'm going into barge 3. Captain, that's insane. Then it's a good day for it. I climbed down to the barge deck. The hole was bigger now. Algae had spread the corrosion, eating away at the surrounding steel like cancer. Green light pulsed inside the cargo hold, bright enough to see by. Bright enough to see what it was doing to the fertilizer inside. The bags were dissolving. 10,000 bags of ammonium nitrate, each one supposed to be waterproof, chemical resistant, built to survive anything a farmer could throw at it. The algae was turning them into soup. Liquid fertilizer mixing with river water, and where they mixed, the glow intensified. Feeding. The algae was feeding on the nitrogen. Getting stronger. Growing faster. Oh, you motherfucker, I whispered. Hayes appeared beside me. We need to abandon ship. Right now. Get everyone onto the towboat and cut the tow loose before. Before what? Before the algae spreads to the Queen? We're already contaminated. Look at the deck. I pointed. He looked. Saw what I'd just seen. Thin green tendrils growing up from the water, spreading across the steel plates like roots. Not inside yet, but getting there. We cut the tow loose. We're just a smaller target. That stuff will eat through our hull same as it ate through this one. So what do? I lit the torch. Blue flame roared to life, hot enough to make the air shimmer. Hot enough to hurt my eyes even through the safety goggles. We burn it. Burn the algae before it spreads. Seal the breach with heat. That's crazy. You got a better idea? He didn't. I could see it in his face, the same calculation I'd been doing, the same math that came up zero no matter how you worked it. We were trapped between algae and demolition, between poison and flood, and our only choice was to fight or die. I chose fight. The torch touched the algae, and it screamed. Not a sound, nothing that simple. More like a feeling in my teeth, in my bones, like the air itself was protesting. The algae writhed away from the flame, pulling back from the heat, but it kept growing around the edges. Every spot I burned, 3 more appeared. I moved faster, sweeping the torch in wide arcs, trying to create a firebreak between the breach and the cargo. Behind me, Hayes was yelling. It's spreading. Captain, it's spreading to the other barges. I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. If I stopped, the algae won. If I stopped, we all ended up like that dock worker with green growth over his face, drowning in air. So I kept burning, kept moving, even when my arms started screaming, even when the heat from the torch made my skin feel like it was melting. Then Danny's voice cut through everything. Levee breach. Levee breach. I looked up. Upriver, maybe 2 miles away, I could see it, a wall of white water erupting from the east bank. The Army Corps had blown it early. Maybe 3 minutes early, maybe 5. Didn't matter. What mattered was the wall of water coming toward us at the speed of a train. Get everyone into the pilot house. I yelled at Hayes. Tell Danny to give her everything she's got. Full speed, point us downstream, and pray we can outrun it. What about you? I'll be right behind you. I wasn't going to be right behind him. We both knew it. But Hayes ran anyway, herding the marathon workers toward the Queen's superstructure, getting them inside where they had a chance. I went back to burning. The wall hit us 40 seconds later. First you feel it through the deck, vibration building, like the whole river is coming alive. Then you feel it in your chest, in your lungs, like all the air's been sucked away. Then it's on you, and there's no time to feel anything except cold and pressure and movement. The tow came apart. Cables snapped like guitar strings. Barges scattered like toys. I saw barge 1 break free, spinning downstream, riding the surge. Saw barge 2 flip completely over, spilling fertilizer and water and algae into the foam. Saw barge 3, my barge, the one I'd been trying to save, crumple inward as the water pressure crushed its weakened hull. Saw myself flying through the air, torch still in my hand, flames still burning. Then I hit the water, and everything went green. The cold was sharp enough to stop my heart. River water in spring, barely 50 degrees, and I'd hit it doing maybe 30 miles an hour from the force of the wave. Should have knocked me out. Should have killed me. Instead it just hurt, whole body pain, every muscle seizing, lungs trying to remember how to work. I broke surface gasping. The torch was gone. My radio was gone. Everything was gone except me and the water, and that wrong green glow spreading across the surface toward me. The River Queen was 100 yards away, engines screaming, fighting the current. Danny was bringing her around. Good kid, smart kid, trying to get close enough to throw a line. But the surge was too strong. It was pushing the towboat downstream faster than she could compensate, and I was getting pulled along with it, tumbling in the current like a piece of trash. The algae was 30 feet away, then 20, then 10. I tried to swim, couldn't. Legs wouldn't work right. Arms felt like lead. My brain was screaming at my body to move, to do something, to not just float here and wait to die. My body wasn't listening. Something hit me from behind. Not water, not debris, a rope. Heavy marine rope, the kind we used for emergency tow lines, and at the other end was the contractor kid from Marathon. He'd tied himself to the Queen's rail and jumped in after me. Crazy bastard. Brave crazy bastard. Grab on, he was screaming. Captain, grab the fucking rope. I grabbed it. Felt the tension snap tight as Danny started reeling us in, winch motor screaming. The algae was close enough now I could see individual tendrils reaching toward me, spreading across the water like fingers. Close enough I could smell it, that wrong chemical smell that made my stomach heave. Then we were moving, being pulled back toward the Queen, toward safety, toward clean deck and clear air. The kid reached the boat first, Hayes and 2 others hauling him up. Then they had me, hands grabbing my arms, my shoulders, dragging me over the rail like a landed fish. I collapsed on deck, coughing up river water. Someone, Hayes, was checking my exposed skin, looking for contamination. He's clean. Jesus Christ, he's clean. How are you clean? Lucky, I managed. Just lucky. Lucky and stupid and alive. 3 for 3. Danny appeared above me, face white as chalk. Captain, we need to make a decision. Current's got us. We're doing 15 knots downstream and accelerating. If we don't beach this boat in the next 2 minutes, we're gonna shoot past every safe landing spot between here and Vicksburg. I rolled to my knees, then my feet. Everything hurt. Everything was wrong. But I was the captain, and these people were counting on me to not be dead yet. West Bank, I said. That beach we passed 2 miles back, the one by the old grain elevator. That's a 1/4 mile of shallow water, Captain. We'll tear the bottom out. Better than drowning. Get us there. Danny ran. The engines roared. The River Queen turned hard to port, fighting current and surge and everything the Mississippi could throw at us. I could feel her struggling. Old girl wasn't built for this kind of abuse. 1989 construction, designed for steady pushing work, not emergency maneuvers at 15 knots with a demolished tow and 17 extra souls on board. But she tried. God, she tried. The shallow water hit us like a wall. Scraping, grinding, the whole boat shuddering as we plowed through sandbars and submerged debris. I heard metal tearing, probably the rudder, maybe the props. Heard someone screaming, one of the Marathon workers, just fear and adrenaline with nowhere to go. Then we stopped. Hard stop. The kind that throws you forward, makes you grab for rails that aren't there. I went down, caught myself on my hands, felt something in my wrist snap. Didn't matter. We were stopped. We were on the beach. We were alive. Everyone off. Hayes was already moving, herding his people toward the gangway. Come on, this boat might not hold. They ran. All 17 of them, scrambling down to the mud and sand, putting distance between themselves and the contaminated river. I watched them go from the deck, Danny beside me. We did it, he said. Holy shit, Captain. We actually did it. Yeah. I looked at the river, at the algae mats floating past, glowing in the pre-dawn light, at the remains of our tow scattered across 2 miles of channel, at the River Queen listing 15 degrees to starboard, water already seeping into the engine room. We did it. My phone buzzed. Still worked somehow. Still waterproof after 19 years and a dozen floods and 1 apocalyptic swim. Emily. Clint. Her voice was small. News says there's a towboat beached near Rosedale. Says they got survivors from Marathon. That you? That's me. Marcus wants to talk to you. I heard fumbling. Then my son's voice. Dad? You're okay? I'm okay, buddy. Mom says you saved 17 people. 16, I corrected. Couldn't lie to him. Couldn't pretend I'd saved everyone when I could still see that dock worker's face, still feel my knife cutting uselessly at his coveralls while the algae took him. 16 people. Lost 1. That's still a lot. Yeah, I guess it is. Silence. Then, you're still coming home, right? You promised. I looked at the Queen, at her cracked hull and her flooded engine room and her twisted props. Looked at Hayes and his crew sitting on the beach, wrapped in emergency blankets, staring at the river like they couldn't believe they'd gotten out. Looked at Danny slumped against the rail, exhausted and alive. Looked at my hands, still shaking, still covered in river mud and chemical residue, and the memory of heat from a torch I'd used to fight something that shouldn't exist. I'm coming home, I said. Might need a ride, though. My boat's kind of fucked. Marcus giggled. He wasn't supposed to hear me curse. Emily would kill me later. But later was fine. Later meant I'd survived to get killed by my ex-wife, which seemed like a pretty good deal compared to drowning in green water at 3 in the morning. I love you, Dad. Love you too, buddy. I ended the call. Watched the sun come up over the Mississippi, turning the water from black to gray to brown. Normal color. Almost normal, except for the patches of wrong greens still floating past, remnants of whatever the hell had come out of Hartwell. The Army Corps would clean it up eventually, dredge the river, burn the contaminated sediment, pretend this never happened. But I'd remember. The kid would remember. Hayes and his crew would remember. We'd remember the dock worker who didn't make it, and the chemicals that shouldn't have escaped, and the night the river tried to kill us all. Captain? Danny was standing now, looking at the Queen. What do we do about her? I looked at my boat, my home for 19 years. The place where I'd learned to navigate by stars and current, where I'd called Emily every night before Marcus was born, where I'd eaten 10,000 meals and slept 10,000 nights and made 10,000 runs up and down this stretch of river. She was dying. Engine room flooded, hull breached, superstructure cracked. Even if we pumped her out, even if we patched the hull, she'd never push barges again. Too much damage. Too much salt in the wound. We let her rest, I said. She earned it. The Coast Guard arrived an hour later. Helicopters, response boats, hazmat teams in full suits. They took statements. They took samples. They took the Marathon workers to decontamination centers and hospitals and debriefings that would probably last days. They tried to take me too, but I told them I needed to see my son first. Told them I'd come in tomorrow, answer all their questions, sign all their forms. Just let me go home first. Let me see my family. The Coast Guard commander, woman about my age, captain's insignia, probably been on the river as long as me, looked at me for a long moment. Looked at my hands still shaking. Looked at the river Queen beached and broken behind me. 24 hours, she said. Then we need you in Memphis for questioning. Deal. Emily picked me up in Vicksburg. Didn't say much during the drive. Just kept looking at me like she couldn't believe I was real. Like she'd already written my obituary, and now she had to unwrite it. Marcus was in the back seat, buckled and safe, dinosaur book open on his lap but not reading it. Just watching his dad. We got to her house, my old house, technically the one I'd signed over in the divorce, and I stood in the driveway looking at it. Familiar. Normal. No algae growing on the siding. No chemical smell in the air. Just a regular house in a regular neighborhood where regular people lived regular lives. You can stay tonight, Emily said. Guest room. I'll make up the bed. Thanks. Don't thank me. You smell like industrial waste and river mud. She almost smiled. Almost. But you're alive, so I guess I can tolerate it. Marcus hugged me. Careful hug, like I might break. Maybe I would. Felt like I might break. Felt like all the adrenaline and fear and desperate luck that had kept me moving for the last 6 hours was draining out, leaving nothing but exhaustion and the memory of a man drowning in green light. Did it hurt? Marcus asked. When you were in the water? Yeah, it hurt. Were you scared? I could have lied. Could have told him I was brave, that captains don't get scared, that 19 years on the river meant I knew what I was doing. Could have given him the hero story he probably wanted. But I looked at his face, 7 years old, dinosaur book, my son, and I told him the truth. I was terrified. Whole time. From the moment I saw that green stuff until the moment we hit the beach. But I did it anyway, because people needed help. That's not being brave. That's just being too stubborn to quit. Emily was watching us. Not saying anything, just watching. And in her eyes I saw something I hadn't seen in 8 months. Not love, we were past that. But maybe respect. Maybe understanding. Maybe just acknowledgement that I'd done something right for once. Come on, she said. Let's get you cleaned up. You've got a long day tomorrow with the Coast Guard. Yeah. I followed them inside. Through the door, through the entryway, into the house that used to be mine. Marcus showed me his new Lego set. Emily made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table like normal people having a normal morning. Outside, the sun was fully up now. The Mississippi was 40 miles away, still flowing, still carrying that wrong green contamination downstream. Still dangerous, still poisoned, but also still there, still moving, still doing what rivers do, carrying everything away, washing everything clean eventually. Eventually, I finished my coffee, looked at my hands, still shaking but less now. The wrist I'd hurt beaching the Queen was swelling, probably needed x-rays, probably sprained or fractured. The chemical burns on my arms from torch work would scar. The memory of that dock worker's face would never leave. But I was here. Marcus was here. Emily was here. Danny and Hayes and 16 marathon workers were somewhere breathing regular air under a regular sky. 17 saved. 1 lost. The math could have been worse. The math could have been so much worse. Dad. Marcus was tugging my sleeve. You okay? Yeah, buddy. I tousled his hair. I'm okay. Just tired. You should sleep. I should. But I knew I wouldn't. Not yet. Not until the shaking stopped and the smell of chemicals left my nose and I could close my eyes without seeing green light spreading across water. Not until I'd called Danny and made sure the kid was all right. Not until I'd called the hospital and checked on Hayes' crew. Not until I'd done everything a captain was supposed to do after disaster. Then maybe I'd sleep. Maybe. Emily touched my shoulder. Gentle touch, the kind she used to give me before everything fell apart. Clint, you did good. Whatever else happens, whatever the Coast Guard says or the company says or anyone says, you did good. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Throat too tight. Eyes too wet. Just nodded and held my son and sat in that kitchen drinking coffee and being alive. Being alive was enough. For now, being alive was enough.